I'm Dean. I'm the dad.
I'm Laura. I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta, and I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. That's so nice, y'all.
I'm working on my posture, and I'm also working on my loud voice, because I'm going to do drama, not drama.
Very nice.
Competitive drama. I gotta do dramatic.
Very nice. Yeah. Yes, you need to speak from your diaphragm.
Diaphragm!
Yes. So, welcome to the show. I do need to let you all know that there is going to be a delay uploading our Patreon episodes, mostly because I got a new computer, and I just now figured out how to record sound on it with our monitor. And so, yeah, and it's going to take me a minute to figure out how to get all the episodes up there with the new computer, but it's okay. Just letting you know what's going on. Also, Patreon's a good place where you can support the show. It's $1 or $3. That's all we're doing right now. It's a monthly donation, but we certainly can use the help. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, if you can't do a monthly thing, you can do Buy Me a Coffee, which is a one-time donation of just $1 or $2. If you enjoy the show, and this is a thing that everybody can do, whether you have money or not, share it on social media. If you don't enjoy the show, keep it to yourself. Very nice, very nice. So what are we talking about tonight? Well, in 1078, William the Conqueror, they had such cool nicknames in those days. I've never met, like, Joe the Conqueror or Dave but William the Conqueror, yeah, 1078. Anyway, William the Conqueror built the Tower of London, a castle built around a stone tower that was a resented symbol of oppression of the Norman conquest of the British people. Since then, the tower has gone on to become a symbol of London, a symbol of the monarchy, and a symbol embraced by the people themselves. Today, we dig into the history and the hauntings of this unique London castle in this haunted and historic episode of the Family Plot Podcast. But first, my Krysta has facts.
Corner.
Krysta has a corner.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She has a corner. It's been a minute. There we go.
It's been as long as it was last week.
It's always the same minute. We're here every week. How did you forget that Krysta has a corner?
I've been busy. Between this and doing stuff for the new job, my brain is tapioca.
I gotcha.
My brain is also tapioca. I've been at school.
You know what they say about excuses, babe?
They're like acids, and we all have them.
I was going to say that they're all pretty, and mine's prettier than yours. Why are you hitting me?
Because...
Sorry, Krysta has a corner. Here.
It's not just any corner, it's Krysta's corner.
There, more claps for you.
Well, now that we've corrected that issue, Krysta, what's going on in your corner this week?
I have a corner. Hooray.
She has a corner, not a coroner. There's a very different things between those two.
Those two things are both there very different.
Yes.
Let's word that.
So, what are you talking to us about today, Krysta? Other than learning to speak from your diaphragm, which I'm very proud of you.
You were working on your Spanish.
I was working on my Spanish. I'm not very good.
Well, you just started.
Yeah, I mean, heck, there is even a phrase you can say in Spanish just by spelling socks. S-O-C-K-S. I don't know what the phrase is, but that's actually Spanish. S-O-C-K-S.
Well, now that we've probably offended all of our Spanish-speaking listeners. So, we've had a busy week.
Yeah, I know that, like, if you say my name is in Spanish, you can also accidentally say, I love myself.
Well, you should, though. I mean...
Okay, yeah, but, like, when you're introducing yourself to someone, the first thing you want to say is not, I love myself name. I think they're gonna be confused. They're gonna be like, that has two completely different meanings. What are they talking about?
That's fair. That's fair.
We have had a busy week. As Mom was saying. Yeah. Let's let Mom talk for a minute.
No! Go, girl. This is your corner. I was just trying to help.
Please! I'm working on a iLife presentation assignment. I need help.
A what presentation assignment?
iLife presentation.
And what class is iLife presentation for?
A iLife presentation is for Freshman Academy.
Okay. Alright, so, Mrs. McCracken.
I know. I like Sharon Kinney. I'm going to say that's a no.
So,
Yes,
we
right.
went to Krysta's open house
Yep.
at her school.
Yep, and Mom knows why I come home tired all the time.
It's a very big school.
And she goes to all 3 floors.
She goes up and down said stairs multiple times a day. And she comes home very tired. How many steps you get in today, Miss Fitbit?
4,720.
That's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
You've been a busy girl.
Like I said, put that on the tail of a dog, and then you can throw a stick, and the dog will fetch the stick, and you do that about 12 or 13 or 50 times, and you have 10,000 steps. And it was almost no effort.
That destroys the point of a Fitbit.
He knows. He's just being obnoxious.
Also, it has to be, like, tight. In order to know that something's there. It has a, like, detector to show you, like, where it is on.
So put it around the dog's leg.
No! That's where they pee.
Not in their front legs. Well, except for Brownie, but he wasn't much of a dog.
Honey. That was a big deal of the dogs that have gone to the farm.
Let's not talk about Brownie.
Okay, let's talk about Bruno.
That's Blue's teacher, not mine. Blue could have gone, but he was asleep.
He could have gone where?
The open house.
Oh. Yeah, because he stays up all night, despite what I tell him.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's let our Krysta talk.
I'm trying to get our Krysta to talk.
Well, you know, she's had a long day.
Yeah.
So, what else do you want to cover in your corner?
The fact that I'm Enneagram 6.
What's a gram 6?
Enneagram.
Enneagram?
It's
What?
a personality type.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
What's that mean?
Well, I'm Enneagram 2, 4, and 6. So...
Yeah, I see it. So, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to fill space because every time we don't talk, it creates this long moment of white noise that I have to edit. So if I keep talking, I don't have to edit.
Or you could just cut that whole complete white noise section out, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it.
That's called editing.
Yes.
I don't want to edit.
But
Okay.
Isn't that the whole point of a podcast? If you don't want to edit, just don't have a podcast.
Well, no, because there's lots of like stuff that we talk about in the interim of stuff that he edits. Anyway, you were saying
Sixes are caring, generous, and thoughtful team players who move colleagues and friends forward in a positive direction.
that sounds like you, all right.
They're valuable and hardworking employees who take great pride in serving an organization and will make every effort to hone their skills.
That's definitely you.
Yeah, it's pretty much Krysta.
Yeah. And if you want to know, we're not sponsored or anything, but if you want to know your Enneagram type, go to truity.com. You don't have to buy it at the end of your test, but there is room for taking tests on here. And you can take a test and find out what your Enneagram types are, and which suits you best. And you can go look at the personality library and look for your type.
Very nice. Well, that's cool.
That is very cool.
I'm supposed to be doing it in Miss McCracken's class, so I just decided that, you know what, yeah, let me take this test. I'm going to do what she told me to.
Yes.
And, it's actually pretty interesting, because the other one is also, the person's very gentle and shy. 2.
Mhm.
So,
Awesome.
Krysta's awesome. Why are you grabbing me and hurting my wrist?
because you keep trying to tickle me.
I would never do such a thing,
Guys,
Krysta.
please. Yes, he would.
Lexi, I don't tickle, do I?
Lexi says you do.
So, what else is going on in your corner today? You've had a rough day. If that's all that you want to do, that's all you...
Every day I see that picture, I want to repaint it. It's not painted, it's a colored pencil, but I want to paint a background in black. And I want to do the stars, and I want to make the moon, and I want to make the fire again, because I think it looks really good.
I think it's amazing, but I like almost all your art, so...
Some of my art is really bad.
I like almost all your art, like I said.
I've been doing some digital art, but I've been more focused into drama recently, since that is what...
Yes, and I think that once you get some drama under your belt, some experience under your belt, you're going to be not only really good, but you're going to find out you like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually planning on taking more theater classes next year, because I don't really want to take art classes again. It's nice being in there right now, but next year I want to focus more on drama and theater classes.
Right. Well, and with theater, high school theater, you can sort of move around. So, if you want to audition for a part, you can do that. If you want to work with the crew in back and make background stuff and scenery.
That's called production and design, I believe.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. You can do that too. So learning about it wouldn't be a bad thing. And I think you're pretty, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, when I was your age, I auditioned for a play that had been based on The Hobbit. I didn't get the part, but I auditioned.
That's okay. You never know until you try.
Yep.
I think you would have been great in that play, babe.
I do too, but I can't do an English accent to save my life, or couldn't at the time. And that's not entirely true. I can do bits and pieces, but I can't do it consistently. I can't Matthew Mercer an English accent, I just...
Yeah, he's pretty impressive.
Well, anything else, Krysta? Other than you love your dad, because your dad loves you too.
All
Okay.
right.
Noises.
I almost hit the slap instead of the claps.
That might have been interesting.
It could have been. So let's get with our early history on the tower. William the Conqueror, a Norman who had recently conquered the English people, was concerned about not only losing his grip on military control of the country, but control of the people as well. He decided to build a castle in London, a castle built around a tower that dominated the landscape in the way that William hoped it dominated the skyline, as well as the hearts of the English. He began to build it in the 1070s using French stonemasons and stones from Caen. Caen, it's a city in France, and I'm going to apologize if we have any French listeners. I probably butchered the pronunciation. Even though the English provided most of the labor. Finished in the 1090s, the Tower of London and its associated fortress were considered symbols of the strength of William's rule. William made his home in the tower, and it served as the seat of the empire for the next 500 years or so. It was also home to the Royal Mint, where coins were made, and could be a garrison against siege in times of war. So it was both fortress and palace. Starting in 1100, it also became a prison, a role it saw use for until 1952. The tower was initially built at the entrance to London, just off the Thames River, and it was designed that way to be an impressive, and in some cases oppressive, sight to visitors who could see its strength and from that infer the strength of the kingdom. And I will also add that mint, they minted coins there till like the 1850s.
Cool.
So that's 800 some odd years of coin making.
Sure.
And now let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors.
Wow, that was quick.
I know, right?
Hey, honey.
Yes, dear.
I still think that was quick, but I feel sponsored.
Yay! Awesome.
All right. So, during the reigns of Henry III, can I say the?
You can say, yeah. English, okay. The English don't do that. It's like Henry III, Edward I, but I'm pretty sure they say Henry III, Edward the First. So, but
yes.
So yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. So, during the reigns of Henry III and Edward I, the castle was expanded, adding more defensive walls, smaller towers, and expanding the moat. The tower also got painted white, thus earning the
sobriquet,
the White Tower, which is still used today. The tower became a mainstay of English architecture, with concentric rings of defense organized around the tower, which medieval kings transformed into opulent palaces. The Tower of London became home to an armory storing weapons and armor. Well, duh. It also became home to the crown jewels, initially as part of the palace being home to the royals, eventually leading to them being stored and displayed there. The tower was home to a prison and a place of executions and murders. More on these later. The tower also housed a public records office, a raven's nest home to the yeoman warders. These are the King's Guard.
Yep.
These are the King's Guard, some of whom serve to permanently defend the castle. It was home to a menagerie for some time, and even has a pub.
Oh.
Yeah, the pub's not open to the public. The pub is just for the people that live and work in the tower.
Well, you know.
The pub isn't for the public.
So, now we're going to talk about the prisoners.
Yep.
Many people have been imprisoned in the tower. Bringing in 1100 with the Bishop of Durham. Beginning in 1100 with the Bishop of Durham. Ranulph Flambard, who was imprisoned for extortion. He escaped when a friend brought him a robe concealed within a wine cask, which he used to climb down the tower. William, Count of Mortain, was held in 1106 as a prisoner of war. He was ransomed a short time later. The Countess of Toulouse, Constance of France, was held in the tower upon orders of Guy de Manville in 1150. She was only held until she could be repatriated to France. In 1196, William Fitz-Osbert was held in the tower for protesting a tax on the English people, which had been levied to provide money to rescue Richard I during the Crusades. In 1199, John de Courcy was held in the tower for starting a rebellion in Ireland. He paid his own ransom and was set free, where he returned to Ireland once more. In 1232, Henry III's regent, Hubert de Burgh, the first Earl of Kent, was imprisoned in the tower until he was pardoned 2 years later. Gruffudd ap Llewellyn Fawr, the eldest yet illegitimate son of the Welsh monarch Llewellyn the Great, was imprisoned here in 1241. He died in 1244 when he fell while attempting to escape the tower. John of Scotland, after being forced to abdicate the Scottish throne by Edward I, called Edward Longshanks, was held here from 1296 to 1299, at which point he retired to his estates in France. The Scots governor of Berwick upon Tweed, William Leharde Douglas, was imprisoned in the tower in 1297 before being murdered there the following year. Essentially, he was beaten to death by the staff. William Wallace was imprisoned for a short time in the tower before he was drawn and quartered, a particularly nasty form of execution, in 1305. David II of Scotland was fighting on the side of France in the 100 Years' War until he was captured in battle. He was held at the tower for 11 years before he was allowed to return home upon the condition that he paid a princely sum to the English, something he had to levy quite a tax upon the commoners to do. This marred his legacy in the eyes of many. John Graham, Earl of Menteith, was imprisoned at the tower before his execution as part of the 100 Years' War. John II of France was sent to the towers in 1356. He stayed there for 4 years before being released in 1360 to go raise his ransom. Richard II of England stayed there to avoid the rebels. He was sent to Pontefract Castle, where he was later murdered. Edward V of England, who was 12 at the time, and Richard Shrewsbury was 10 when they were sent to the tower for their own protection. They disappeared sometime later, many believing they had been murdered. More on this later. Thomas Cromwell, Lady Jane Grey, Anne Boleyn, and several other of Henry VIII's wives. Guy Fawkes, you know that name?
Remember this 5th of November.
Yes, absolutely. Rudolf Hess, the deputy leader of the Nazi Party, was the last state prisoner to be kept there. Joseph Jacobs, a Nazi spy, was the last prisoner to be executed here. And the Cray twins, a couple of real bad gangster types, were the last two imprisoned here for a few days for failing to report for national service.
So, lots of people have been imprisoned in the tower. And the tower has a history of bloody business that has been done in its walls. So, let's discuss a few of these. Henry VI was murdered here, supposedly in the King's Chapel in the Wakefield Tower in 1471 during the War of the Roses. Edward IV became king, but died in 1483, and his sons, Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury, were sent to the tower by their uncle, Richard of Gloucester, or Gloucester. Gloucester, I believe is how you pronounce that. William Hastings, who had been Lord Chamberlain under Edward IV, was arrested on charges of treason. Edward's heirs were then declared illegitimate, and Richard took the throne as Richard III. William Hastings was then executed without trial. Edward's sons disappeared, with 2 skeletons of young boys being discovered in 1674. These skeletons were re-examined in 1933 and determined to be the remains of the young princes. So Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury. That's what they're called collectively, as the young princes.
Gotcha.
So basically, if you're not keeping score, Edward IV's own brother killed his nephews.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who had been Lord Chamberlain under his brother, all to get the throne.
Yeah, I mean, he was serious about the position. You can say that for sure.
Now, King Henry VIII divorced his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. I wonder if that's Aragorn, son of Arathorn. Probably not. But he divorced his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, because he fell in love with Anne Boleyn. And you're going to like Henry VIII so much, Krysta.
I know.
He then married Anne Boleyn, who became the Queen of England. At least, I missed a whole bit there. Okay. As I was saying, he divorced Catherine because he fell in love with Anne Boleyn. When he divorced Catherine, he was excommunicated by the Pope because the Catholics didn't believe in divorce and really were not going to have it, certainly not with the king. And the king said, fine, I won't be a Catholic, and married Anne Boleyn anyway. Now, considering all he went through, he loved her until he met a woman named Jane Seymour. Now, this is not the actress who became... She did not live... That woman did not live for 300 years till the invention of movies.
Nope.
Just a coincidence. Maybe the actress took that name from the character, from the historical personage. I don't know. But then he had Anne Boleyn arrested on charges of treason, adultery, witchcraft, and incest. a swordsman was brought from France to carry out her execution by beheading, because she was very worried about how that was going to go down, because the executions could get a bit botched, and we will talk about one of those later. But she was very worried about it. So, in a weird move of kindness, they brought this French swordsman over to behead her, and she felt much better about that. She told people around her that she wouldn't have any problem dying that way because she didn't have much of a neck.
Whatever made her feel better about the situation. I don't think I could be that cool, but you know.
Yeah. So, now another victim of Henry VIII was Margaret Pole, Countess of Salisbury, who appeared to take Catherine's side after the divorce. This was not a good idea. She was accused of treason, arrested, and imprisoned in the Tower, where she was treated very poorly and fed very poorly. So when her execution came, this sick, frail, 68-year-old woman walked to the executioner's block, but refused to lay her head on it. A guard forced her head down, but because she was still resisting, the executioner missed her neck and struck her shoulder. Remember me saying they could get a bit botched? This, we're about to discuss one here. Struck her shoulder. Margaret popped up and ran, being chased by the executioner. He struck her 11 times before she died.
I don't know where she is, but when I die, I want to meet that woman. I'm going to be like, you deserve better, honey.
Absolutely.
And mind you, like, it's possible she was not on Catherine's side. It just, that was what people assumed. Mm-hmm. She was never asked. She was just imprisoned and then executed. So, yeah, not good. Now, Catherine Howard was the 5th wife of King Henry VIII, and by all accounts, she was very pretty. She was also a cousin to Anne Boleyn. King Henry showered her with gifts and publicly wooed her. Finally, she agreed to marry him, but by this time, Henry was old, fat, and by all accounts, a bit disgusting.
More than a bit.
Yeah. Catherine Howard then met young Thomas Culpeper, a handsome man she immediately fell in love with. She was aided in this by Jane Boleyn, the wife of Anne Boleyn's brother, who was one of her advisors. Jane had given testimony against Anne Boleyn that helped Anne get convicted. So when Catherine was caught with Thomas Culpeper, she was taken to the Tower. Culpeper was executed almost on the spot, and his head already graced the walls of the Tower when Catherine was put in the Tower. She was executed a short time later, and immediately afterwards, Jane Boleyn was executed for her part in arranging the affair. Now, Jane admitted before her execution that she had lied in giving witness against Anne Boleyn. And she said that for that reason, she deserved to die. So in the end, she repented. Maybe she wouldn't have if, they hadn't drug her to the block, but yeah. And then Catherine Howard is rumored to have said only, I die a queen. I wish I died the wife of Culpeper.
Aw, that's kind of sad.
Lady Jane Grey would be the next to feel the bite of the headsman's axe. She was Queen of England for 9 days in 1553. When Edward V, the only son of King Henry VIII, died of tuberculosis, he left the throne to Lady Jane and her heirs male in order to keep a Protestant on the throne. However, when she was deposed as the Queen by Queen Mary, she did not object and was executed a few days later. This was how Queen Mary first earned her nickname of Bloody Mary, Lady Jane was only 17 years old. The final private execution was Robert Devereux, 2nd Earl of Essex. He was a favorite of Queen Elizabeth, who made him the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, a post at which he failed miserably. Before the Queen could deprive him of his post, he led a rebellion against her. The rebellion was stopped, and Robert Devereux was executed. In addition to these private executions, many more executions were held publicly at Tower Hill for the public to watch. William Wallace was one of these, as was Guy Fawkes, which is odd because they both had movies made about them.
Yeah.
Kind of. Guy Fawkes wasn't really it was kind of about Guy Fawkes, but it kind of wasn't.
He was definitely, yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about a legend. We like legends around here, right?
We do.
So let's talk about the legend of the Ravens. Ravens have supposedly made their home here since it was first built. Since then, the ravens have come to be cared for these days by a dedicated member of the Werder Yeoman known as the Raven Master. The ravens are fed and cared for. Many say they are spoiled because there is a legend which says that if the ravens no longer occupy the tower, it will fall and England will fall thereafter. The ghost of Anne Boleyn is also said to haunt the tower. She is sometimes seen on Tower Hill, where she was executed. She is often seen in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula, her final resting place. If seen in the tower, she is usually headless as she carries her head in her arm. Also, often seen in the chapel or the tower are the ghosts of Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury, the ghost of Jane Boleyn, the ghost of Catherine Howard, the ghost of Lady Jane Grey. There is little rhyme or reason to how these other ghostly women turn up and have been encountered at multiple locations within the tower itself. Also seen on Tower Hill or sometimes staring out from the tower are the ghost of Guy Fawkes and the ghost of Walter Raleigh. Two smaller ghosts are thought to be the two princes, Edward and Richard, who died in the tower at the will of their uncle. There are also anonymous ghosts and a gray man and white lady who are seen in the tower. People have seen ghostly objects floating in midair, and a bear appears from time to time, and the legend is those who see the ghost bear die soon after.
And the thing about the ravens is, and I heard this on an episode of No Such Thing as a Fish, and that's a great show to pick up odd facts, but apparently, like, they're having problems with the ravens, like the ravens aren't breeding, so they're starting to die off, and they're worried about that legend because no ravens in the tower equals no England. So, Dan Schreiber was the one who did that. So, thanks, Dan. I learned something. Listen to your all show, just so you know. So that brings up our final thoughts. Krysta, you're a big fan of Henry VIII, I take it? Okay. All right.
She's getting a pretty full box.
Yeah, because she's got...
There's plenty more space for other items.
Nice. Krysta's making an asshole box.
Yeah, she is.
I like it.
I do too.
Good.
So any other final thoughts you want to throw in, or things that you learned that you didn't know or were surprised by?
Poor lady who got her head, like, not her head.
Which one?
No. Poor lady who got chopped in the shoulder.
The Countess of Salisbury, Margaret Pole.
Yep, Margaret. Poor Margaret. Girl deserved better. All of his wives deserved better, dude.
For sure.
Oh, I will agree with all of that. But, I mean, the medieval times and even the Renaissance eras when this started happening, when these things were happening, you didn't get a lot of choice. It's not like the people who built the tower got like lunch breaks and rest and relax. They didn't clock in at the beginning of the day and clock out. Right. If they decided that they were working on, if the people building power decided they were working all night, they were working all night. And the best you could do, you might be able to run away, but if you got caught, you were just going to get executed.
Yep.
And most of these people were completely uneducated, so, the chances of them escaping, especially when, surrounded by educated people, wasn't great. So, yeah, I mean, nothing like, while the tower is a unique spectacle and an interesting sight, there's so much. I'm going to say this way. I don't mean it literally. I mean it figuratively. But there's so much blood holding it together that.
And it's not surprising that it is a haunted space because of all the heartache and the hardship that took place on those grounds. So it makes total sense. We've talked about it before. So much strong, gripping, gritty emotions take place in a place that it almost scars the physical property and leaves those traces of the spirits, and that's where we see a lot of these hauntings. Right.
And you've got to understand that initially when Anne Boleyn and Jane Boleyn and Margaret Pole were buried, they were buried without ceremony and with very little signage. Right. Yeah, people knew there were bodies there, but not necessarily who they were. Right. These sepulchres they're in now were built later to give them a final resting place. So, so much has happened there. There's so much blood in the mortar there that, it makes absolutely. I mean, we're talking a building that's over 1,000 years old at this point.
Exactly.
Or, well, not quite. It's not quite 1,000 years old. It would be 1,000 years old in 2097. So we're not quite there yet, but still almost 1,000 years old. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't haunted.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
Anything over 1,000 years old. That stuff has to be haunted.
Well, and again, I mean, just like, I feel so bad for Margaret Pole because not only, they stuck her in the tower.
She was a rock star. She was amazing. I don't feel bad for her. I feel like she's the kind of person who freaking made them regret. They probably couldn't sleep at night after watching her old butt run around and run away from them and survive 11. Can you imagine watching that hack? Old woman just keeps on going, man. She was a rock star. She was amazing.
She still deserved better, though.
Definitely deserved better. Definitely deserved better. But man, is she a superhero or what?
She's my superhero now.
I am so impressed. It's like, make those fools second guess their nonsense.
And the whole reason was it
was stupid.
Yeah, it was stupid because history does not record why he thought she was on Catherine of Aragon's side, but it could have been for something as simple as publicly saying, "I feel so bad for Catherine." That's not being on Catherine's side.
That's feeling bad for Catherine.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. Like I said, with stuff like that, it would be more surprising to me if it wasn't haunted.
Right.
And like I said, that the demon bear gets to me, which it makes me wonder if it's a ghost or more of like something else, an elemental.
I don't know.
But I know
that killed you. I don't freaking know.
I know that, like, it was first seen by a member of the Warder Yeoman, and the guy who saw it went into a fever that he never came out of.
I see.
And depending on what you read, it's been seen a time or two since, and everybody who's seen it has died. Eventually.
Well, there you go. And that's our show.
That is our show. Thanks as always for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If so, let us know in our Facebook group, which is also a great place to give us ideas for future episodes. Thanks as always to Bill Barrett, who does our theme music. Bill, if you need music for a project, Bill's your guy. You can reach him at Bill Barrett. That last name is spelled BEHRENDT at sbcglobal.net. Or also thanks go out to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime. If you want a good true crime podcast, she has one for you. But equally as important, at least to us, is the fact that she's a Canva addict, and she used her Canva skills and some of our Krysta's artwork to make our logo art. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
Also thanks to Aaron Gnerk of the Big Dumb Fun Show. And join us next week for our episode on the creeping weirdness of the Hoya Baciu Forest. Or maybe something else.
You know, also, we'll be celebrating a few days early Dad's birthday. Because we're coming up on Dean's birthday. Yay!
Do you have to remind me I'm getting older? Really, honestly.
Well, you know, I like to celebrate the day that you came into this earth and helped me make a couple of little pumpkins and helped make several other little pumpkins that we like a lot.
Yep,
So,
we like all our little pumpkins.
So I don't look at it as you getting older. I look at it as just celebrating you.
I see.
And until then, I guess we'll just say
bye!
bye.